technical seminars are an Intertech production. For instructor-led .NET, Java, and XML courses, visit us at www.intertech.com.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm going to learn anything from this, right? This is a real mess. So this has been minified, which I'll talk about shortly. And of course, there's other JavaScript files here as well. And this is all part of the ASP.NET AJAX library, which is in beta. Now, if I go into Extended, here's where I'm going to go ahead and find all of those AJAX control toolkits, right? You can see, for example, I can see the C Dragon, the slideshow, tabs, and some of the other controls that we do have. There's a calendar control. We've also got ASP.NET AJAX beta samples. And inside of here, you've got a full-blown website which gives you an example of how to use these things. So this is something else that we do have, all part of the AJAX library that anybody can download for free. It's all completely open source, and you can use on your website. Now, one thing to keep in mind with all those JavaScript files, it gets a little confusing, like, well, how do I include them in my site? How many files do I actually need? Where am I going to download them? Do I always have to worry about deploying those to my server? Well, thankfully, Microsoft's come up with this new deployment concept called the AJAX Content Delivery Network, CDN. The AJAX Content Delivery Network will actually allow your web page to download the actual JavaScript files from servers that are going to be located all over the world. And these, of course, will be cached on these servers. There's going to be both the debug versions and the full-blown versions, so you can even debug your JavaScripts as you're using them from these other locations. Note here in the example, for example, let's say we go to the head section of a web page and we add a script tag to an ASPX or HTML web page. And notice how we're saying, hey, go to this site, ajax.microsoft.com/AJAX beta 0911 and start.js. This will automatically download it to your page, and then you no longer have to worry about including all these JavaScript files in your web, on your web server, for example. This can only make deployment easier and also optimize the downloading of these files. For example, if your website is a long ways away from wherever that client is located, know that at least the JavaScript files will be downloaded at a much closer level, okay, a closer location on the planet, if you will. So this is pretty cool. We're going to have this AJAX Content Delivery Network being used. Now, as I said, I used this term once. I want you guys to get used to this term if you haven't already used it. It's called minifying. Minifying is the process of taking those JavaScript files, those beautiful JavaScript files that you may have written or maybe Microsoft's written or somebody, and bringing them down to a smaller size. Now, I got 4 bullet points here why you'd want to do this. It says compact your JavaScript files for. These are 4 reasons why you'd want to take advantage of minification, using a specific minifier. Now, I'm also going to demonstrate how we can use the one that Microsoft wrote. They already have a minifier written. But keep in mind there are several minifiers available on the web, and you certainly don't have to use Microsoft's minifier. I'll show you some reasons why you might want to do that, though. Basically, when you minimize or minify your JavaScript files, it's going to give you higher performance in the web browser. And the reason it's going to get higher performance is you're eating up less memory in the web browser. It's going to be able to download those JavaScript files faster because they're half the size. And of course, ultimately, this means less bandwidth usage between a client and a server. Believe it or not, less bandwidth usage, of course, it means nicer times for that user on a dial-up, but also for your web server. It doesn't have to sit there and handle this response going back to the client for such a long period of time. Now, when you use a minifier such as Microsoft's AJAX minifier, of course, you can see that it handles either normal crunching or hyper crunching, right? Normal crunching is just going to remove the white space, carriage return line feeds, comments, semicolons, curly braces, but you can also set it up to do hyper crunching. And this is where it's going to strip out unreachable code, maybe code is never going to be called. It'll rename your variables to shorter names. It just takes it to a whole new level. Now, I'm going to demo this minifier that's from Microsoft here shortly, and know that there is a command line utility. You can go ahead and run it from the old DOS prompt, all right? Alternatively, if you're using MS Build or maybe using NANT, you can also use that instead. If you've ever looked at MS Build and looked at NANT, you're going to realize, wow, they're very, very, very similar to each other. It's almost like MS Build ripped off from NANT. And maybe they did, maybe they didn't. You can take a look and make your own decision. Also note that there's DLLs there that you can programmatically go ahead and use this Microsoft Minifier as well. If for some reason you have custom tasks or you need to programmatically strip down the size of your JavaScript files. Take a look at that code example there at the bottom. You just type in AJAX min.exe, myscript.debug.js, and then the output file name, myscript.js. Notice how I'm converting a debug version of that script into a regular version. That's an O, by the way, where I do the -O. That's not a 0. Now, one thing I found really weird is when I installed this AJAX min, because anybody can download it and install it, is it put it in a really funky location. Alright? So, for example, under program files, you can see I have a folder here called the Microsoft AJAX Minifier. I think this is actually the wrong path. I think I want to go to just program files. Let's try again. Yeah, that's not working out. Let's try this. Microsoft. Alright. Anyways, under program files, let me just go ahead and run a special bat file here, guys. I thought I'd show you something, but I created a special bat file called min.bat. And you notice I'm taking the current path, and then I'm pointing to a folder called Microsoft, and then the Microsoft AJAX Minifier. Okay? Notice, yeah, I had the right path up here all along. Anyways, they went ahead and installed themselves under a folder called Microsoft under program files. No other application is installed there except the Minifier. So what I did was, with my little bat file, I just went ahead and added it to the current path. That way I could exist anywhere and go ahead and use this Minifier. So I'll just go ahead and run min.bat, and sure enough, at the very end of my path here, you can see how it includes that path to the AJAX Minifier. Now what I need is a JavaScript file. And here we go. I've got this JavaScript file, 166,000 bytes in size, mass edit behavior. It's one of the JavaScript files. I just went ahead and grabbed one of them and threw it in the root of my folder here. So I'm going to go ahead and call AJAX min, and then I'll say mass edit behavior.debug.js -O for output, and then I'll call it mass edit behavior, and I'll get rid of the word debug. So it's just going to be mass edit behavior.js. It says crunching file, and then it says done. If I do a dir for masked, actually I'm going to do a dir mask star, and you can see that I have a backup, of course, here, but let me just do a dir star.js. Here we go. You can see that the mass edit behavior.debug.js is 166,000 in size, and the mass edit behavior.js is now 88. And if I go ahead and type those out just to look at them, here's the mass edit behavior.debug.js. Well, let's do that with this guy. We'll just type him out. And you can see all the spaces have been stripped out, and it has been minified. And it's like, okay, got to get used to this word minify, right? You'd want to use the word minimize, I know, but minify is what we use. Minimize means to absolutely cut it down to the absolute smallest way possible, whereas minify just means to make smaller. It's a word that already exists. I checked it out. They didn't make it up for this.
For more free learning resources and to see the latest lineup of our instructor-led .NET, Java, and XML courses, visit us at www.intertech.com.